In Wichita and Houston, Texas. Come join me because we're going to chat about leadership and showing up and getting aligned and getting clear, and taking action and voting and voting and voting and all of that stuff. So join me for some great conversation and a few laughs. And then when we're done, be sure and head over to your favorite podcast platform or to my website, laurelrutledge.com, and subscribe to my weekly podcast, the Rutledge Perspective Podcast. Episodes drop every Wednesday, and they are short and sweet, commute worthy. And I promise you, you'll get something out of everyone that will help you shift your perspective. Because when you shift your perspective, you shift your circumstances. See you soon.
Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday. It is October 25th, and early voting has started. And we're going to talk about that here at the end when we do some shout outs and stuff during the middle of the show and just stuff. So we'll talk about those announcements and things. And I do have a couple of announcements, but we'll do all of that at the end. And you have to forgive my little nasal feeling. Our wind is so high here. I am suffering, allergy suffering, not COVID, y'all, allergy suffering. But it is still real, okay? It's still real. So just as a side note, they are talking about how we have a tridemic or triple-demic or whatever they're calling it now. RSV for kids. Watch out for your kids. It's a respiratory virus that's really, really harmful for kids. I think they said under the age of 2. The flu is like ticking up, and we still have COVID. COVID still exists, y'all. So I have not gotten my 3rd booster yet. So I will be at Walgreens this weekend getting my booster and might get my flu shot at the same time. Y'all know I don't do needles, but I might be getting both those things at the same time to get it over with this weekend. So please stay safe out there. And with the weather too, the weather changes. It's all kinds of crazy right now. So forgive the nasally this week. And I've got my water, Jerry, because I've left my bottle of water. So Jerry was kind enough to give me one of her bottles of water. Got my little tissue. I'm ready, y'all. Okay. So today, because we're still in alignment month, and I said this is the title of it, and I'll do a short podcast on it too, is, what's your sign? Because I'm a baby of the 70s, right? What's your sign? Now, I'm not talking about astrology, okay? So that is not the topic of the show. It's not about astrology. It's really, what is your sign that what you're doing is aligned with who you are? Because a big piece of alignment is awareness, right? Self-awareness, awareness of who you are and where you are. What is your gut telling you versus what your head's telling you? All of those kind of things that really help you get to a place where you really know that you are moving in your purpose, in your zone of genius, not your zone of excellence, all that kind of stuff. So what is your sign that you are where you are supposed to be? And it varies for everyone, right? It really does vary. It is. So I had an opportunity this last weekend, and I did some posting. I didn't do a lot, just because, one, I just don't put all my business out there, but I also don't always like to let people know necessarily that you're gone all the time, right? So I was in Philadelphia for the Black Podcast or Afros and Audio Podcast Festival. It was the 4th annual Afros and Audio Podcast Festival, and it was phenomenal, y'all. There as a member as well of the Black Podcasters Association, just some really, really amazing people. I got a chance to sit on a panel with 4 other podcasters. It was talking about interviewing. Our panel was called The Guest Recipe. How do you pick guests? How do you interview guests? How do you get guests back on track? All that kind of stuff. It was just really cool to sit on a panel with these other incredible women who are in this same podcast space. And then to just share a space with all of these people who are giving voice to the community, because it really is a community, giving voice to the community. And several things came out of that made me think about this whole last kind of alignment week. Because next week we'll go into vision for the month of November. And as I was there with all of these folks, and it was a mix of people. There were some people who didn't have a podcast but were thinking of starting one. There were some people who their business was podcasting. I mean, that was what they were going to do. They were building podcast networks. They were doing, this was their business. And then there were people in between, right, who had a podcast, but it was like support, kind of like me, supporting the other pieces of their business. And so it kind of ran the gamut. But what was consistent among everybody that was there was, if you're going to make the effort and if you're going to be out there and be public and put your message out there, one, how do you get really clear on what your message is? Two, how do you get visible? Because visibility is really difficult with over 4 million podcasts in existence, right? How do you get visible? And then three, how do you ensure that what you're talking about really is aligned with the message you want to send? So there are more and more trends happening now, including Google, right? Which I just learned so much from these folks. A new trend even in Google, because there's so many folks with these really big followings and really big podcasts that really are not creating original content. It's not original content that's getting put out there. And so what Google is finding is, wait, we're not trying to just repurpose all the stuff that's already done. They're going to start promoting even better original content creation, right? Which is fantastic for smaller podcasters, right? The fact that if you don't have 10 million downloads a month, you still have an audience and can find an audience. And how do we support people who have those smaller reaches, but also have a really great message? I mean, people are getting in there. Libsyn is getting in there. That's a podcast host. All of the places are really starting to think differently about two things. One, what is the real content and who are people reaching? And two, how are we going to give voices and spaces to people of color, in particular Black people, in this podcast space, right? Because there's lots of dollars, lots of time, lots of airways, but we've got such a small percentage of that. And yet we have an audience that spends billions, trillions of dollars, and advertisers want that audience. If they want that audience, they need to get the people who are attracting that audience. So there's a whole business kind of stuff, right? But as we were talking about these things, and I was meeting people and talking about podcasting and what they were doing and the messages that they have and all of these kind of things. And shout out to Diamond, who's here in Houston, that I met at the podcast festival. She has Marsha's Plate is her podcast that does have over 1 million downloads, Marsha's Plate. And she is here uplifting and supporting the LGBTQIA and transgender community. She is all kinds of fabulous, y'all. The hat she had on, I'm telling you, I was like, I just need to know you because I like that hat. It was all about being in a room with people who were very clear on the impact they wanted to make. And when you surround yourself, I think Jerry posted, I don't know if you posted that today, Jerry, if it was over the weekend, talking about who you surround yourself with, right? Today. Yeah. And so when you were surrounding yourself with folks who are of like minds, and let me tell you, I mean, the podcasts run the gamut. There were business ones. There was one woman who has one on sewing, right? She is a seamstress, and she's got now this whole like community of Black women who sew, and they spend money, y'all, on high-end machines, and they're doing quilting, and they're doing heavy stuff. So you had that. You had one guy, and I've got to go back and listen to his replay. It was called the Liquor Chronicles, but it wasn't about liquor, right? But it was all about conversation around some things. I mean, just people who were truly invested in their message and aligned with who they were individually and how who they were was going to be able to make an impact on the world. They didn't want to just exist. They wanted to take this one life and make an impact where they could. It makes a difference when you intentionally decide to be aware of who you are, be aware of what your intent is, your intentions, your message, your genius, and then align your actions with that. It is so incredibly powerful, and allow yourself to be surrounded with people who are doing the same. We often get intimidated because someone else has 1 million downloads and I only have, 1,000, or somebody else has 4 podcasts and I only have one, or somebody else has a co-host and I'm just solo. We get into that comparison game so quick, so quick, and we completely undermine our own value, our own genius. And so, how do you know? What is your sign when you are in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing? For me, it's a gut thing, man. I know immediately. It is God winks start showing up, things start lining up, people start coming into my lives. I'm telling you, into my life. If you stay in awareness and really pay attention, and I don't mean making stuff up, I don't mean trying to see things where things don't exist. I mean, if you are truly in tune to your surroundings, truly in tune to your surroundings, truly in tune to who you are and what your message is, when you pay attention, those things that are aligned with what you're trying to do show up. They do. And when you intentionally put yourself in spaces where your purpose is telling you need to be, it is magic. It is absolute magic. It was so nice to meet some of these folks in the community, in the Black Podcasters Association community. Corey has built an incredible community. And this is a collaboration, right? You got Afros and Audio that does this great festival. This is their 4th year. It was the first festival that started, live festival, right? Live event, live 2-day event for Black podcasters, Black voices. Afros and Audio Podcast Festival. It was the first one that started. This is their 4th year. And he also was looking to build a community. Well, it takes a long time to build a community. And if you're building this event, that's incredible. And bringing in sponsors and bringing in people who have got real knowledge to give to podcasters, that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And so you can try to build a community too, but to build a community, you got to take effort and you got to be invested. And so instead of being all mine, I don't want to be part of yours, there was a collaboration. So Corey and Talib got together and collaborated. So now it's the Black Podcasters Association powered by Afros and Audio, right? It is a true collaboration with the whole intent and purpose of bringing forward and pushing forward Black voices and understanding and educating those who are in this audio space, because audio entertainment is what's happening. It's what's up, y'all. That's where things are going. Yes, video is huge. And I'm actually, for once, seem to be like at the forefront of things moving. Thank you, Jesus. Right? So now more and more people are talking about doing their podcast through video. I'm like, well, I've been doing that. Right? So now I just got to use it more. And I got a live show, right? Got this live radio show, this live broadcasting. I got a live show on Fireside. So I'm like, oh, I'm actually at the front of the pack finally. I'm not trailing. But they've created this collaboration because they were very much aligned with who they were and what they wanted to do. Corey knows who he is, right? He is a web designer. He's an audio engineer. He is someone who understands sound and production. That's what he does. Talib is really very much around gathering communities, right? Making sure that there are events that educate and uplift and give voice and give visibility to people who are having these things done. Very much aligned in their lanes, but not so laser focused that they didn't see collaboration as alignment. And I think that's where we get in trouble. We get so afraid that someone else is better than us, or someone else has got more than us, or someone else is right in our lane and maybe people will like them more than us, that we miss out on aligned opportunities for collaboration because we are so afraid. But if you are truly aligned, if you have that gut, like I said, for me, it's God winks and gut, right? If you are truly aligned with who you are and where you're supposed to be, what your purpose is, you see those collaborations as opportunities for growth and expansion, not as threats. And we put ourselves in problematic situations because we can see some opportunities for collaboration as threatening, as opposed to an opportunity for both to expand. You know, I was having my therapy session yesterday, because y'all know I love my therapist. And it has really morphed into a lot of kind of business mindset coaching, really, is what it has become. And we were talking about, this fatigue and this irritation and frustration and all this kind of stuff that I still have, even after this amazing weekend. And what I realized is, again, that whole alignment and awareness is I had heard something in my business accelerator that the woman said, if you don't have a team, what you've created is a job, not a business. Now, I immediately balked at that because I don't want employees. I do not want employees. That is not something I want ever going forward at this point in time, right? I just don't see that happening for me. And I had to get really clear, right? Because words matter. It's not that I don't want employees. I don't want to have to do payroll. I don't want to do payroll. I don't want to do I-9s. I don't want to have to do performance reviews. I don't want to do any of that. I've been there, done that. I've done enough of that for 12 lifetimes. I don't want to do that. So when you talk about you cannot continue to expand and build big businesses alone, that is a true statement. At its core, that is a true statement because none of us gets through this alone. And those folks who said they bootstrapped and they did it all by themselves are lying. They didn't. Someone somewhere gave them something. Someone somewhere gave them a chance. And so for me, that kind of team building is a team of resources, right? Folks who have genius in podcast production or in copywriting or in book writing, or it's a team of support folks and support sources that enable me to do what I do and for me to stay in my zone of genius. And what I realized, again, being very self-aware and trying to make sure in alignment month that everything that I'm doing is aligned. Okay, I feel like I'm going to sneeze, y'all. That everything I'm doing is aligned. Jerry, y'all, look, I wish I had a 360-degree camera in here because Jerry P. Beasley is a comedian, okay? She is so funny. She's now backed up almost outside the studio when I said I was about to sneeze. Anyway, sidebar, live radio, y'all. So, see, now I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, so I was talking to her about this and teams and all that kind of stuff. And what one of the things that came up was, if you are building a business, right, and you don't have a team, what you've created is a job. It's not a business, it's a job, right? And because I don't want team, I was like, Well, in having this conversation with my therapist yesterday, I was like, you know what? It's not even so much that was the trigger, self-awareness, right? Knowing my lane, knowing my zone of genius. It is not so much the employee piece or the team piece. It's none of that. Although I've really got some strategy stuff I got to think through. I got to make the time to think through. What it was it was a trigger. Self-awareness, right? Getting aligned. It was a trigger for me. That word job is a trigger for me. Because the last job I had in corporate was toxic, right? It created such pressure and oppression, having a calendar with no white space in it, being in constant conflict because people like to rewrite history, being told, or being treated as if your career just started when you got there, when you've been working 20 years before you even know these people existed, right? All of those kind of microaggressions began to build up. And so it was that word job. You created a job that I realized that mindset is what I was reacting to. My body has been reacting to that. Awareness and alignment. I can tell because I can see it in my face, right? I can tell in my clothes. I can see that I'm starting to creep back up. It's that I'm feeling that stress belly, right? You carry your stress, that cortisol, that stress belly, that sugar belly, eating way too many carbs. I've been carb loading like I'm about to run 12 marathons, y'all. All of that stuff that shows up. And because I am very well aware of my body and my mind, because I've done the work, I knew something was wrong. Something was not right. Something was not right. And I couldn't put my finger on it. And then through that conversation, I was like, that's it. What triggered me is this woman saying, you haven't created a business, you've created a job. And job for me triggered all this other stuff. So when I talk about what is your sign? What is your sign? My sign is the fatigue, the lack of energy, beyond just, I haven't slept well. Because y'all in Philly, they collect trash at 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Seriously? Really? All right. For an hour outside of my hotel. It's like, you've got to be kidding me. Um, the trigger for me or the sign for me about alignment is when I really pay attention, because I do now. I have body dysmorphia issues, right? I see a size 42. I just do. That's what my eyes see. And I've had to train myself to be much more. That's why I'm not been on a scale in 10 years, 12 years. My doctors know, right? My trainer knows, but I can't see the numbers. I know me well enough to know that it triggers something to see numbers. So it forces me to really pay attention to how I feel, how my clothes fit, not how I look, because my eyes lie. My eyes lie, right? I told you guys, my friend Sabrina says, your head lies, your gut knows. Your gut knows the truth, but your head lies. My eyes lie to me all the time. And so for me, that trigger or that early warning sign, that signal that I am out of alignment is, oh man, I'm not sleeping well anymore. I am dreading Monday mornings. I am not sleeping on Sunday nights. I've got all this, I have all this clutter around me, although my clutter thing is done, which is so nice because my brain is more open without clutter. Those things are triggers for me that make me aware that I am not aligned. I am absolutely not aligned. There is something that is going on that is not aligned with where I'm supposed to be. And so my question to all of you is, what are your signs? What are your signs that you are not in alignment? Now, we don't get to operate 100% in our zone of genius. We just don't. That's just not reality, right? It should be a good 90%, but there's going to be 10% of your time that you just have to do the stuff you just got to do. Even if you hire somebody to do it, you're still going to need to be checking up on your bookkeeper, right? Or checking up on your person that's, cleaning your house or babysitting your kids or whatever the thing is that you really either choose not to do or don't want to do. And so you hire those resources out. Delegate, don't abdicate, right? That's one of the things I tell people as leaders. Delegate the things, don't abdicate them. Don't say, oh, now I don't have to worry about it. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So we all have those places that aren't necessarily aligned with our zone of genius that we still have to take care of. But how do you know when that balance starts to tip? When that balance starts to be unwieldy? The meditation for today, I do, Joyce Myers has this little book. I think it's like Start Your Day or something like that. It's real small book. And it's just like a meditation every day or a thought every day. And the one this morning, I just thought about this connection. The one this morning was Find Your Balance. And it talked about how, the devil tries to get in when you're unbalanced. And he don't care what the unbalance is, whether that's your house is too clean, right? That OCD, or whether it's a hot mess. Either one of those is out of balance, and that gives him space, right? That head trash looks for your imbalance to throw you off, to throw you even further into turmoil, to get you even further out of alignment. It's one of the reasons why I have embraced clutter as a trigger. I have reframed it. I have shifted my perspective so that when I see clutter in my house, I don't get frustrated and irritated and, oh my gosh, this is just awful. I just hate my house. I just don't have enough room. I just, Laurel, you got stuff piling up. Your mind is messy. Let's clean up this space so you can figure out what's going on, right? I have shifted my perspective to be back aligned with who I am, which is I need clear and clean space to think. And I also know that my mind is really messy. I am multi-passionate. I can have multiple conversations going on at the same time. That is also what makes me a genius. That's what makes me able to see dots that other people don't see, much less are able to connect. That's what makes me exceptional at what I do. And it makes it really difficult for me to deal with me sometimes, because I can have all those conversations in my head. I'm like, really? If you see me, what I saw a post yesterday, if you see me talking to me, I'm just having a team meeting, right? Just ignore me. It's just a team meeting. But those triggers now, because I've reframed them into early notification processes, I can use those in order to ensure that I'm getting back aligned, because I am aware of who I am and where I am. And those triggers tell me my awareness is off, that I'm not paying attention to what's going on around me. So what are the signs that you create for yourself, or that you pay attention to, that you look out for intentionally, that will help you kind of stay within the guardrails. We all get off, right? I'm not talking about perfection. I'm talking about staying within the guardrails of your genius, staying within the guardrails of your balance so that you can execute on the things that you say you want and move in a way that makes sense and that is valuable and value adding and impactful, not only for you, but for the people you want to serve. Because leadership, again, is not about you. Leadership is about the people that you're serving, right? It's about behavior, not position. And so while you are working on being clear with other people, you got to be clear with yourself. You got to get really clear on what those triggers are so you know how and where and when to show up, so that you understand what the things are that are happening. And for those of you, just sidebar, quick note. For those of you who might be on Facebook or somewhere else, I've got the chat open in Melon. But if you're chatting with me or sending me messages on directly in Facebook or on LinkedIn or something, just know that I may not necessarily be able to see it, but I see you. Hey, Tisa. Oh, so maybe I can see Facebook. She's on Facebook. Good morning, Odessa, Texas. Yes, it is so important to shift your thinking and change how you talk to yourself. I am the queen of, you have got to be kidding me, Laurel. Have you lost your mind? I am the queen of negative self-talk, y'all. I could teach 4 courses on that. It's one of those things where I tell people, don't mistake my kindness for weakness. I don't say all the things I could say, because the other thing about me and my awareness and my ability is I know what words I can use to create the most harm. I choose not to use those words. I can be just as biting, just as cutting. I can be just as nasty as the next person. I choose not to be. I choose not to take things to that level. Now, there are times when it's necessary, but I try most of the time. 98% of the time, I just choose not to go there. Because, see, I don't want to escalate something that doesn't need to be escalated, because words once said cannot be unspoken. But I am aware enough of myself to know that that reaction is not aligned with who I am and the behavior that I want to exhibit. Good morning, Mama Young. Odessa's in the house. It is so important for us to really think differently about how we show up and how we use these things around us as indicators of where we are and what we're feeling, as opposed to weapons against ourselves or against other people. It's really important right now as we get ready to go into these midterms, y'all, because I am a nervous wreck. I have to be honest. I am a nervous wreck about these midterms because there's so much crazy rhetoric out there. And of course, all the commercials are ticking up. I'm missing like important news stories because I just don't want to see all these commercials, all these political commercials. I can't do it. It's just too much. And yet, it is important to stay on top of issues. And so I know me, and I have to be aligned with who I am and how I show up. And I can't put that stuff in my mind first thing in the morning, because it sets me up for the rest of the day. It's going to get me irritated and frustrated and impatient for the rest of the day. And that is not fair to me and all the stuff I got to do, and not fair to the people that I have to interact with, to set myself up to be frustrated and irritated. Why would I do that? And because I know me, and now I know that that whole idea of having a job, and the fact that some of the things that I'm feeling in this business are because I feel like I've got a job, not a business. Now I know that. Now I'm aware. How can I do that differently? Right? I've had on my to-do list for weeks, probably for at least a couple of months, actually. Go back and redo your Calendly. Go back and reset up your schedule to bookend like when you can be available, when people can schedule time with you. Go back and clean that up. You do not have to be available 100% of your time. In fact, you should not be, because you are not at 100% of your time. So go back and make sure that you are doing things in a way that align with you. Why am I doing a show on Fireside at 7 p.m. on a Wednesday evening? Because my first thought process was, well, this will be easier for everybody. This would be a better time for everybody. But is it a better show if that's the end of my day and I'm tired because I don't do well at night? Right? It's that awareness and aligning your actions with who you are. It doesn't make any sense for me to be doing a show at 7 p.m. on a Wednesday night. It just doesn't. Not for me. It just doesn't. Now, I'm doing an excellent show. I have phenomenal guests. They are amazing. And I show up. I find a way to show up, right? I'm always there 100%. I also know how much effort it takes for me to be 100% to do it at 7 o'clock at night in the middle of the week. So we're going to stop that madness in 2023. We are realigning with who we are. We are going back to being clear, right, on who we are and where we are and who we are in this moment and how we can serve best in this time. We got to be real with ourselves, right? And we've got to speak positivity into ourselves. Okay, so I changed my show and I do my show on Monday mornings, that live show on Monday mornings, right? Kick off the week with a live show on Fireside with Laurel. There are people who are getting ready to go to work who would love to see a live show. Today's show, Good Morning America, all those things, they're on it early in the morning. People watch them early in the morning. Why do I think I have to be at night? Duh. Right? It is all a matter of going back to getting really aligned. What is your sign? And are you watching for those signs? And are you heeding those signs and doing something about them when you can? Right? Now, I know I need to move the show, but I also know I don't need to move the show today. I am planning for 2023. I am intentionally taking this last quarter of the year to really get solid for 2023. And there are some places where I'm having to really kick my own butt to get moving in action. Y'all, this is real. For those of you who work with me, it is so much easier to help someone else. It is a chore to help yourself. And so when you work with me, you get the real me. And I'm going to be honest about those things that are tough for me too. And I'm also going to be honest about the fact that I've gotten here because I've done some things and I've been some places and I know some stuff. And I am exceptional at what I do. And I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. Because I probably know somebody that is great for you. And I am so happy to make a referral because it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about service. And so I am so aware of who I am and where I am that is being baked into much more clearly at this point in time in year 5 of the business. It's being baked in much more clearly, much more intentionally into the strategy going into 2023 because I have to do that. In order for me to make it the impact I want to make, I have to be able to show up 100%. And if I'm more worried about how it impresses or works with other people than how it helps me show up at 100%, then I'm not doing myself or anyone else a service because I won't be able to show up the way I need to show up to be able to serve the way I need to serve to continue to serve. Right? Each one reach one. I can't reach one if I'm not 100%. And when I do reach out and I'm not at 100%, that is not the reputation I want to have. Right? And I'm also, when I'm showing up at 100%, I am able to be my real self. Flaws and all. Doubts and all. Right? I was having a conversation the other day with someone and there was some statement that was made and I was like, I wonder why we use that statement. And they were like, what are you talking about? I said, I don't know. The nerd just came out. I'm like, why do we use that? For all intents and purposes. Somebody said that at a retreat. For all intents and purposes. I'm like, thank you for saying it the right way. It's not intents and purposes. For all intents and purposes. That's the phrase, y'all. That's the right phrase. It's those things that we think about. I know, I'm a nerd. I know. I'm like, my God. I didn't have enough. What can I say? I'm a nerd. It's who I, y'all. Bothers you, though. This, it does. It's the real deal. Words irritate. You know, I had this conversation with somebody the other day. There are very few things that really get under my skin. Words are one of them. Words get under my skin, y'all. It makes me crazy. Yeah, my friend Tisa's laughing. Because see, she's one of the ones that does that to me. She'll make up words just to see what my reaction's going to be. It makes me crazy. And I think, you know what, to be honest, I think part of it is, you know, our parents were very much focused on education. My brother and I, when we grew up, very much on education. And when we went to school, there was a real focus on reading. I think I've said this last week, you know, they were reading to us when they had to prop us up on pillows. And so language has always been a really big deal for us. And I believe that there's an amazing that we have an amazing language. The fact that we keep adding crazy words to the Oxford English Dictionary makes me insane. Why can't we use the stuff that we got now? It just drives me crazy. I know, Jerry. It drives me crazy. Now, do I judge people and do I not deal with people because they didn't? No, absolutely not. Because see, that's a whole different issue. That is about intolerance. And I do have some intolerance. I am intolerant about intolerance, right? I do. I don't have a lot of patience for folks who are intolerant, because I think there's a difference between intentional ignorance and there's a difference. There's a difference, and that's why I get so irritated about voting. There's a difference between being intentionally misleading, intentionally spreading disinformation, that kind of stuff. Yes, see, we can fight about that all day long, and I got some definite opinions about that. The other thing, I am very clear. That's about experience and exposure and stuff, and some people just don't care. They just want to get the message across. It makes me crazy. It's one of my quirks, y'all. I am who I am.
I'm saying that's making you crazy because you go crazy.
I do go crazy.
But no,
it makes me insane.
You're not trying to drive me crazy. I've been crazy.
Right.
So don't keep saying it makes you crazy, because then I feel crazy when you keep
right.
saying it. So stop driving me crazy.
Okay, it makes me irritated. Okay. Is that better? Okay. It irritates me when people don't use the right words, right? But here's the thing. Alignment for me is about language being very important. The message you say, words matter. Meaning matters. What are you telling people? Because communication is not just the words you say, it's the meaning people gather from your words, right? That alignment is, what am I saying? It's not unkind to be clear. How can I be clear in the language that I'm using and make sure that the language I'm using aligns with who I am? And who I am will use a $14 word. And I'll use a 50-cent word. I will sometimes sound like a good old redneck West Texan when I'm tired. And then other times I'll sound like, I just got a PhD at Harvard, because I am able to maneuver in a variety of situations. I've been taught to do that. I know how to ensure that my message is heard depending on the environment in which I am operating. That is not about code switching. And that's not about selling out. That's about intentionally ensuring that what I want you to hear is what you hear. What I want to communicate is what's communicated. It's not unkind to be clear, right? But I am very aligned and aware of who I am and where I am. I know that there are things that just get under my skin. And I know when I'm at a breaking point around those things. I know that because I am very introverted and because I get really frustrated when there's too much noise around me, because I absorb all that energy, I have to have the first part of the day be very solitary. Even when I'm with family, right? If we're on a vacation, I need to have those first few minutes of a day, have no one in my space, nobody breathing my air, just some time with me to get grounded. If I don't have that time, I am so irritated and frustrated and short-tempered the rest of the day. And it's not their fault, right? Because those are people I love and they love me. But if I don't have that time and get aligned with who I am and get grounded, literally get grounded, set my feet flat, get my energy solid, get my mind right, I am not able to deliver in the way I want to deliver. I'm not able to show up. I'm not able to be present in the way I want to be present. I need that quiet time. Right? But it's because I have spent time and I have done the work. I have done the work to figure out who I am, right? And where I am and what is important to me and what is not, what I will tolerate and what I won't, and what the things are that I just don't care. They're just not, they don't even reach my radar. Do them, don't do them, have them, don't have them. They're just not, they're inconsequential to me. I'm pretty clear on those things. And I continue to do the work. Because as we age, as we go through this life, as we get additional experiences, the things we care about change, our perspectives change, the more exposure and experience we get. And if we will continue to do the work, then we can continue to remain aligned so that who we show up as is consistent. And that's what people need, is consistency, which is part of the problem we got going on right now. It's inconsistent. Well, let me rephrase that. People are highly consistent. What they are is masters at morphing, right? They are consistent in who they are. They're just masters at showing you what they want you to see. And you've got to be more discerning than that.
Here's a question.
Yes.
It says, ask her, can she have quiet time in the midst of others? Example, in church, is there a difference?
You know, I personally can't have quiet time in the midst of others. It is more difficult. It is more difficult sometimes for me, but it is not unusual for me to just get real quiet. And sometimes I need to physically at least move to the edge. You will find me in big groups. I'm always on the edge. I don't sit in the middle of an aisle. I'm on the edge somewhere. I'm in the back. I'm on the sides, somewhere where there is empty space around me. And if I can at least get some empty space around me, that gives me an ability to almost touch quiet. But yeah, you can. At least I can. There are a lot of people who can't. There are a lot of people who can't get quiet time in the midst of a lot of people. But I can. I just have to set myself up. And I know ahead of time if I'm going into one of those places, it's going to be busy. Even like this conference, I knew it was going to be big. When I sat at tables, the very first session, I was in a table in the middle of the room by myself. Some people came and sat with me later, but I saw people at other tables. I intentionally sat there because it was the beginning of the conference. I had not had as much time as I wanted that morning to just be still. I knew I needed to be still. So I just sat there and it was good. Right. So absolutely you can. Absolutely you can. You just have to figure out what that means and looks like for you and be okay with that. Sometimes that means putting a purse, on the chairs beside you. Something.
I just told somebody yesterday, I really can. I can blank out. If the conversation is not going in a direction that is interesting to me, I can blank out. And because guarding your peace is so important to me, for real. Because if not, you are going to be agitated, irritated, and borderline crazy if you're paying attention to everything that is going on around you.
Right.
And all the sounds. You said something earlier, I want to address it. You said, even when you got back from such a good weekend, you told your therapist, you still felt aggravated or irritated. What is that?
Yeah.
Did you know?
Well, for me, it was that trigger. It was that understanding that what I've been doing has felt like a job, not a business. And job for me ties to all of that craziness and madness and for lack of a better word, trauma from corporate. It all connects. And that's why I say it's all about alignment is about awareness, self-awareness. Like I knew that subconsciously, but it took someone else reflecting my words back to me to say, when you say that, here's what I hear. Because again, I've been with her for years. So she's been through all of this. And she's like, here's what I'm hearing. Here's what I'm seeing. How does that reflect you? I'm like, that's it. That's it. It's feeling like, even though I'm not getting up, getting dressed, driving to this place every day, it feels like the same pressure. It feels like that same oppression and weight. It feels like that same madness and ugliness and irritation. And I'm creating it for myself.
I was going to ask you, but
I'm creating it for myself.
Girl, you helped yourself.
Exactly. I'm creating it for myself. But that's the awareness piece, right? It's like, but wait a minute. If I've created it for myself, I can clean it up for myself. But that's the importance of being aligned. And that's why I wanted to talk about this today is what is your sign? My sign has been, why am I eating so many carbs? Why am I so tired when I walk in my house, right? We talked about that last week about you got to be careful of your environment. Because sometimes the habits you create in an environment seep into the environment. And so when you're back in the environment, the habit comes out. That's why they say, people who have had issues with mental illness, who have had issues with addiction, who've had issues with overworking, whatever it is, when you surround yourself by those same people, you find yourself exhibiting those same behaviors. That's why a lot of people, I have some people in my close circle who are recovering, and they're like, I had to let some folks go. Because when I got around those people, it was the same conversation, the same environment. And that environment triggers those same behaviors. And I don't want to execute those behaviors anymore.
So let me ask this question, because when you talk about that, because I did have a chemical imbalance, and I know that God healed me many years ago. So I can tell when other people are imbalanced because I feel it. It's
right.
Like either you're high or you're low. You're
right.
never in between. You're kind of up and down, up and down. How does that ever trigger you? Do you ever feel up and down, like you're out of alignment and you're up and down?
Yeah, constantly. I told y'all, my mind is just messy, right? For me, I do feel those things because I do have triggers. One of those, again, is the clutter trigger, right? When my space gets cluttered, I know my mind is really off kilter. There's too much going on. And one of the things that I do when I see that is I stop. I don't know what's going on, but I will stop and I will clean up. I will clean up the clutter. I will breathe. I will pause. I'll get something to eat. I'll get something to drink. I'll do something to take me out of the space, regroup, and then go back, because you can't always realign or reconnect in the same space. You got to go see and feel something different in order to come back to that space that's created the drama, right? At least for me. So for me, I spent a lot of time, and always have been, I think we were raised that way, to be very self-aware. So I know when things don't feel right, when they just feel off. The challenge for me is understanding why they feel off and what is it that's triggering it, which is the beauty of therapy, because you can't always see that. When you're in the midst of it, you can't always see what the thing is. You just know something's not right. So if you can't see what it is, but you know something's not right, my suggestion to you is stop in that moment. Just stop. If something doesn't feel right, like your gut is like, something's not right, I'm not feeling normal, I'm not feeling myself, just pause. I talked about that a couple of years ago, right? Practice the pause. Just pause. Go somewhere and get still and get quiet and ask yourself, what is going on? Give yourself that gift. Laurel, what is going on? And just find that quiet space to just stop. Just stop, because sometimes that's all it takes. Remember, we talk about short circuiting. You got to short circuit that nervous system because it is on high alert. Usually if I'm off kilter, something in my nervous system is not feeling safe. It's responding to something. I got too much going on. I got a deadline that I set for myself that I feel like I'm not going to meet, right? Something is triggering a lack of safety, and our nervous systems are automatic. We don't control them. They control us. They just react. It's that, they call it the reptilian brain, right? It's that automatic reaction. We talk about that polyvagal theory, that automatic reaction of your nervous system to safety, that fight, flight, freeze, or faint, right? That's automatic. We don't get to trigger it, and we don't get to stop it. It just happens. And so if you can give yourself, when you're in that space where something, man, everything I touch today seems to go wrong. Every time I do something, stop. One, stop so you can stop the language. Because if you start saying everything I do today is just jacked up, then everything you do today is going to be jacked up. So you got to stop the language, go get a drink, go change your scenery. If you're working at home, get out of your home office, go to your living room, go to your bedroom, go somewhere else, go outside, get some fresh air. Stop. Just stop. Just pause. Get quiet. Ask yourself what's going on and what can you do about it to change it. Take some deep breaths and then go back. Alignment is not something that is impossible, but it does take some work to stay there, because self-awareness is not easy. We're going to do some shout outs here in a minute.
Laura, when you said about trauma from corporate, and then I look at it this way, instead of looking at it as trauma, it really was your blessing, because it pushed you to do what you're doing now, to be into your own business. So could you look at it more so of it aided you to do something different?
There's a blessing in every lesson.
Yeah.
There's a blessing in every lesson. I am so grateful for every experience that I have had. And I am able to separate the beauty of the experience from the actual event. Mm-hmm. So the last corporate experience I had was a horribly toxic experience. There were some people in there that I am so grateful for. And there's some relationships and things that were amazing that I would never have gotten had I not had that experience. Right. So the experience, the facts are that it was toxic. Mm-hmm. The facts are that I met some amazing people who are still dear friends of mine. The facts are that experience continued to build who I am today. Right. All of those things are real. And it enables me to use that and claim and own, and therefore kind of put brackets around the toxicity and the trauma, instead of the trauma and toxicity owning me. I am able to box it in, claim it for what it is, and use it for what I need it to be used for. That's the difference, right? It's not calling it trauma isn't owning the trauma. Calling it trauma is identifying and taking the power away from the trauma itself. It is understanding that it is what it is, but it doesn't have to continue to be. That's awareness and alignment. I am absolutely where I am today because of that experience and many others beforehand. Many others that were phenomenal and were toxic. That wasn't my first toxic corporate experience. Not even close. I had a boss throw a book at me in a meeting. That's a real story.
I'm not laughing at that.
Yeah, that's a real story. Yeah, that's a real story. Let's say that did not end well for that person.
Did you get arrested?
No, not.
That just seemed like
I almost did, but no. It was a bad situation. But so that was not my first one. So when I haven't told a lot of my story, and I actually had someone say, "Hey, where can I find your story?" And I was like, you know what? I need to tell more of my story. There have been some real crazy experiences that I have had, but every single one of those have made me who I am today and given me the ability to be in the genius that I am, to operate where I am, and to make me good at what I do. But that doesn't mean they weren't horrible. And that doesn't mean they weren't exceptional. All of those things are true. It is how I choose to use them going forward that gives me the power over the experience as opposed to the experience having power over me. And that's why I say, if you're in a position where you are really getting dragged down by your experiences and by your environment, do not sit silent, y'all. Call somebody. 988, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. 988. Phone a friend, right? Phone the hotline. If you feel like you don't have a friend, phone a hotline. If you feel like you've talked to your friends too much, phone somebody else. Do not sit in silence. I'm not talking about the silence. I meant quieting your mind. Do not sit when you are truly on the edge. Don't sit there. You don't have to. You don't have to. There are resources around that are specifically designed to keep you out of crisis. Use them. Utilize them. Right? Don't allow yourself to be in crisis. And I'm telling you, with what's going on in the world right now and the midterms in the US coming up, there's about to be a lot of folks in crisis, y'all. It's a lot. The world is a lot right now. You are not alone. You are not crazy, right? You are not unworthy. Those things aren't true. That's head trash, right? Those things aren't true. You may have some behaviors you need to work on, but you are priceless because you exist, right?
By the way, we love the picture you posted of you being at the podcast. You said you don't like posting pictures, but I thought that was just
thank you.
And I said to myself, I said, now she's in a and that's one of the things you said. I mean,
yes.
But can you see that maybe the
yes.
alignment comes with some changes of things
absolutely.
maybe you didn't want to do, but now
absolutely
nice to do, because that's how other people get to know who you are.
Absolutely. And it's all about timing too, right? So that one I was like, you know what, we're going to post this because I need people to know. But you notice I didn't post a lot of stuff because, again, we also live in the real world, and I'm very conscious of, do I need everybody knowing I'm not in my house? Do I need, just need, we just got to be right. We just got to be careful, right? We do live in 2023, 2022. We just got to be cautious. But yes, you're right. That's part of the alignment is, if you really want people to know who you are, if you want to get visible, you got to be visible. You can't say, I really wish people knew who I was, and you're never out there. Now, you guys are going to probably see some big changes from me in social media going into 2023, including some places I'm not going to be anymore and some other things I'm going to do. Just got to, it's all about alignment, y'all. It's all about alignment, getting where you are. Okay, so we're going to do some shout outs. And while we're getting ready to do that, let me tell you guys what's coming up. So I was checking my time, and for some reason, my eyes have just gotten to be a mess. So I am getting ready to launch a new webinar. It's going to be an hour, and we're going to talk about, alignment, vision, action. So for those of you who have been listening to me, wondering how to work with me, wondering what goes on, what it's all about, I'm going to talk about what it's all about. And it is, because I believe in being transparent, it is going to be an hour webinar, and I'm going to talk about those things, and I'm going to deliver value. I'm also going to have a call to action in that to have you come work with me, to join the group coaching class. So there is going to be some selling inviting you to work with me at this webinar. There's a group program that I do, and I love it because I think there's not only there's value from me, but there's value in going through a process together. Small groups, no more than 10 to 12 people, women. This particular program is aimed at women, and so that's gonna kick off. And so the webinar will probably be next week. I'm gonna start putting all that stuff around it. Again, I'm having to pay attention to me and my energy because I am determined to show up well and 100%, right? And so I was originally going to do it on Halloween because I want you guys to be able to know you do not have to wear a costume with me. You show up as you are with me. No mask required. It is you and me, right? That's how we do that. So we'll see. So that's coming up, and it will be into my group coaching program. If there's enough demand, I'm going to go ahead and kick off the community that I plan to build. But building a community is a lot of work. And it requires not only me to show up, but it requires all the people in the community to show up. It is not easy building a community. But if there's enough demand, then I will do that. And so that is coming. There's also going to be a 30-day mindset shift video series that you'll be able to purchase. And it's not going to be exorbitant in terms of pricing. But I think it's something that will help people of these things that we're talking about, kind of 30 days, a short video every day of things to do to shift your perspective. So that is going to be coming up here in early November. Also in 2023, you're going to see some things around this alignment, vision, action. So every quarter, the first month of the quarter, we're going to be talking about alignment. The second month, we're going to be talking about vision. And the third month, we're going to be talking about action. So every quarter, we're going to get those things done. We're going to talk about who we are and where we are. We're going to talk about what we want, and we're going to talk about what it takes to get it. Every month, right? Every quarter, we're going to do that kind of stuff. And the purpose of the group coaching program is to really dive deep. So whether or not you're building a business or building a career, this group coaching program is for you. And depending on also who shows up, I might do a spinoff for small business owners because it's a little bit different. If your focus is how am I taking my team to the next level, or how am I doing this? How am I showing up as a leader in my business? That's a little bit different than how am I showing up as a leader in my career or in my company, right? It's a little bit different. So we'll just see what happens, but you guys will see that. So join my email list. That's where it's going to come out. If you go to my website, laurelrutledge.com, there's a pop-up for you to join my email. It's also at my link in bio on all of my social media pages. So in my Instagram, it's at the link in bio. If you go to my about section on LinkedIn, it's in there. And if you go to my about section on my Facebook page, the Rutledge Perspective, it's there. So you can join my email list. I do not send 400 emails a week. I don't do that because I don't want that done to me. So, but join my email list. I do send out a weekly email with tips and with a link to an episode from the vault from the podcast. So you can get a really quick nugget of some episodes that have been out there before and whatever is upcoming. So I will probably start in 2023 doing a couple of emails a week, a newsletter kind of thing. But my emails are also short and sweet. People don't have time to be reading dissertations in email. So they are short and sweet. If I do start the newsletter, it'll be a little bit different. So just 2023 is going to be a different way to work with me and a different way for us to get connected. So I would love your feedback and love your input on, do we want to build this community? Because I will build it if people are going to use it, because time is not renewable. So I will absolutely give my time and I will show up in the community and we'll talk about things, but it requires that all of us do that. So we'll, DM me if that's something that's of interest to you. So that's going to be coming up. And Fireside. So this week on Fireside, my friend Cheryl, hopefully she doesn't get called for jury duty. My friend Cheryl is going to be on there. She is a breast cancer survivor. And in this new season of her life, as an experienced individual, she is now an actor and model in California, which is what she always wanted to do. And she came out of corporate too. She was a Pratt & Whitney. So just going to be an amazing story that's going to be on Fireside tomorrow night at 7 p.m. And then next week, next week, I have Anamika Anderson, who is going to be on Fireside, who is the CEO of Mia Donna Diamonds. And she is the one that disrupted the diamond industry, right? And started lab-grown diamonds, not CZ. This is not chemicals that make diamonds. This is actual coal in a lab growing diamonds. So it really combats the diamond industry. De Beers, the diamond folks came after her when she did that. But she has some amazing stuff. Mia Donna Diamonds, and the company's miadonna.com, I think. So she's going to be on next week. So join me on Fireside as well. And of course, I'm here every Tuesday. So, and we have got just, and I didn't tell Jerry this, some of the folks from the Black Podcasters Association, when they're in town in Houston, I've told them to let me know so we can have them in studio too, because they're doing some great things from a community perspective, and really lifting voices up. And I would love to have them on the show. And they've said they would do that. So, all right, let's do some shout outs. Oh, yes.
One quick. Denise Washington.
Hey, Denise.
I had a school director yell at me to come back inside the school and help her close up after I had already stayed 39 minutes later than my scheduled time. I didn't say a word. I started working on opening up my own school and found another job while preparing to open my own early child care program. And I think she's referring to when you said somebody threw a book at you.
Yes.
I laugh like that because that happened to me here. But that was some years ago that the supervisor was here. And I didn't get quiet like Denise. I stood up and got real indignant. And they're no longer here. And so that's, I mean, because everybody handles
exactly.
How did you handle somebody throwing a book at you? Because she said she got quiet.
Well, so this was in a meeting. And it was about a training, and they were like, well, I don't know anything about this training, and you're the one that trained me. And it threw the book at me. And I said, actually, I'm not the one that trained you because you didn't show up for the training. And then the person got really quiet. And as soon as it was over, I actually went into HR and I said, so here's the deal. This person just threw a book at me. I'm already out. I'm headed to grad school. If he says another word to me, I don't have to pay for grad school. Texas Instruments will be paying for grad school. So y'all can take that for what you want it to be. But I suggest you do something about that. And that was it. I didn't have any other issues with him. Although he tried to I need to do an end of year review with her before she leaves. And I'm like, that's not happening. That's not happening. I done told you we're not having any more conversations because this person doesn't know how to behave in my presence. And you are not entitled to subject me on a regular basis to this kind of stuff. And I don't have a problem calling an attorney doing that. And I don't tend to be a big litigator, and having been in HR, I know what that means. And I know what words to use. But yeah, we weren't going to do that again. So that's what I did.
He said she's the quiet before the storm.
Right? Exactly. See, people mistake my kindness for weakness. My not yelling and screaming that I'm not going to. No. I get strategic.
Your face tells it all.
I do. I don't have a poker face. I don't have a poker face.
You don't seem docile.
No.
Okay, I don't know who told you that, but you didn't repeat. Okay. You got Canada in the house.
Yeah.
You got Mexico in the building. Panama in the building. France is in the building.
Yeah.
Brazil. Romania is in the building.
Yay, Romania.
Germany. Finland is in the building. All right. United Kingdoms. Quebec.
I love it.
City. Guatemala City. Singapore is in the building.
Yay.
Panama City. Bucharest is in the building. London is in the building. Helsinki is in the building. Port Arthur is in the building. New York, Charlotte, Pittsburgh, Chicago, St. Louis, Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Worth, Kansas City, and Houston.
I love it. And then I had Odessa here on the Mellon app. And I know I had Cincinnati, Ohio on the Mellon app, and Pittsburgh, I think, as well on the Mellon app. So thank y'all for showing up. I know we're a little bit over time. Please today, if you're feeling really messy and crazy and not aligned, just stop. Just stop. Go take a minute, go walk outside, go get a deep breath, go get a drink, go do something, and just reset and come back to it. Reset and come back to it. Don't allow yourself to stay in that madness, because sometimes we can't just push through it. We just need to take a minute away from it so then we can come back. Give yourself that gift. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week, next Tuesday, right here. KCOH TV Radio, The Boost. I'm your host, Laurel Rutledge. This is the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show Live. See you next week. Bye.